Welcome to Dynamic Trader 2. In this module, we're going to have a look at long trades. Now, we'll use the German 30, the DAX, to look at some of those examples. All of the long trades have very specific rules for entry. They have a specific rule for an emergency stop, which is an account protection when we enter the trade. And then they have a very specific rule for what we call an active stop, just in case the trade turns against us when we're in it. So let's have a look at the DAX and some examples. So let me just pull it along a little bit. Now, all trades fall into two categories. First category is if the stop arrow, see here the stop arrow, is outside the outer price envelope. That's the price envelope 3 marked in blue. Or if the arrow is inside the outer price envelope, it gives us the two different categories. Now, each of those categories has a subcategory of two potential entries as well. So there's 4 potential entries altogether. Now, we'll deal with, first of all, the arrow being outside the price envelope. So as you can see here, arrows are down, they're coming down. Now, once we've hit the arrow, we know the arrow is going to flip the other way. As you can see here, we hit the arrow and it flips the other way. It's now pointing up. Now, for a long trade, the first thing that has to happen is the arrow has to be pointing up. If it is not pointing up, there will be no trade no matter what. So arrow points up, so we now know that we've got a potential for a trade. So on these trades, we can either enter on the open or the close of the candle, depending upon what conditions are met at what time. So first of all, arrow flips. We then need both vector averages to be green. Now, if we're going to go in on the open of a candle, step back to the closed candle and look at the color of the vector averages. They're both, one is red, one is green. They're not both green. There cannot be a trade. So we wait for the candle to close. Then look at the vector averages to the left of the closed candle. One is red, one is green. There still cannot be a trade. So we then wait for the next candle to close. Now here, same thing. Candle opens, step back, red and green, no trade. Candle closes, red and green, no trade. Next candle opens, step back, red and green for the vector average, no trade. Candle closes, now look what we get. Vector average, both green. So that's the second part of the conditions are met. The candle then closes above the vector averages. And then finally, because the arrow is outside the price envelope, the price has to close above the inner band, which you can see it does. So at that point, that is our entry. Let me go through those again. Arrow pointing up, both vector averages green. Candle closes above the vector averages and above the top band of the inner price envelope. There is our entry. No other point. It's the first point all of those things come into alignment. And then off it goes. And prior to it moving, we have to place a stop. So the stop is going to be the arrow. That is our emergency stop. It is an account protection only, just in case something goes wrong rapidly. Now you may choose to put your stop elsewhere, but we use that arrow as our emergency stop. And as soon as the price starts moving in our direction, then we will start moving our stop upwards. And as we go into profit, we move our stop into profit, so that if the trade goes wrong, then we've locked in profit. How far you move the stop and how close you move it to the current price will just depend upon yourselves. That is the only discretionary part about these trades. Everything else is to a set of rules, and it will just depend upon really probably how nervous you are in a trade, how much you want to lock in, and how much you want to give it room for maneuver, room to breathe. So as this one moves, we lock in some of that profit. And you can see as it moves up, we'd have locked in Profit, there we go. So this we had an entry here of 12594. By the time it's all the way up here, 12616, we may have locked in 10 pips, for example. Now let's follow this trade and see what happens then. Starts turning the other way. Now, once the arrow changes direction, here we go, we know that there's potentially going to be an active stop or even an opposite trade. So we have to be aware now and follow this. Arrows pointing down. We now need the vector averages to go red. They're still green, so there's no active stop. Next candle, on the open or the close, doesn't matter. We've got one green, one red vector average, so there can't be an exit. Remember, if you're looking at an open of a candle, you've always got to step back to the closed ones to look at the vector averages. Next candle opens, so it opens at the bottom here. So if we're looking at the open, step back, vector averages, green and red, no exit. When the candle closes, still green and red, no exit. Next candle, it opens at the top of the body here, step back, vector average green and red, no exit. But look what happens when the candle closes. So when the candle closes, the vector averages are confirmed red, and the candle has to close below this inner price band. And you can see it has there, and obviously the candle has to close below the vector averages as well. So at that point, we would get an active stop if we were still in this trade. So let me go through those again. Arrow pointing down, vector averages confirmed red, candle closes below the vector averages, and the candle closes below the inner band. And we're out of the trade if we were still in it at that point, avoiding this scenario of going back into a loss-making situation. Let's have a look for another example of a long trade. So here's, follow this one through. Price comes down, arrow flips the other way. So on the open or the close, vector averages, they're not both green, so there's no trade. Same. So here we go. On the open of this candle, step back, vector averages were red. They were pointing the wrong way. However, when the candle closes, both vector averages are confirmed green. The candle closes above the vector averages, and it's closed above the top level of the inner price envelope. So at that point, we then get our entry point there. And then off it goes, and it does its thing. If we were still in the trade, let's look now for our active stop. Before we get an active stop, the arrow has to change to point downwards. So here we go. Arrow points down. The candle opens at the bottom of the candle here. So on the open, step back. Both vector averages are red. The candle is opened below the inner price envelope here. And the candle is open below the vector averages. So at that point, that would have been our active stop, our manual exit, prior to it going completely wrong. So that's the examples when the arrow is outside the price envelope. Let's have a look for a long trade where the arrow is inside. Here we go. So let's have a look here. You can see here the arrows, they're both pointing down. Then the arrow points up. Now the arrow now is inside the outer price envelope. Now what that means is it's exactly the same set of rules apart from the candle having to be open above or below the inner price envelope. It now has to open or close above the middle price envelope, this purple band. So arrow points up. On the open of the candle, step back, Both vector averages are green. Candle opens above the vector averages, and the candle has opened above the top of the purple middle price envelope band. So that would be our entry. And then off it goes, does its thing. Emergency stop the arrow. As it moves up, we move our stop up, tracking it through, and then eventually, let's see where we get our active stop. So the arrow flips all the way back here, but we're waiting for the vector averages to change red. They don't. Wait. One changes, still one. Back to green. Then, on the close of this candle, both vector averages are confirmed red. The candle is closed below the inner price envelope. Candle's closed below the vector averages. And so that will be our manual exit, our active stop, if we were still in the trade. Because we definitely don't want to be in it then. It's likely to go further the wrong way. So we'll find another one. Here we go. Bit of an ugly one. Doesn't matter. Same principle. Arrows are coming down. We're going to wait for them to flip. There we go. There's the arrow. Now this one's quite close to the border. If you're not sure, all you've got to do is look at the numbers on the side here. So in blue, price envelope 3, 125.94.32. The stop arrow, 124.94.22. So the stop arrow is just lower. So that will be one where the arrow is lower. We want to find one where it's inside. So let's come back. Let's have a look. So long trade. So here we go. Here's one. Arrows are down. Then flips the other way. We know we've got a potential long trade. So when the candle opens, step back. Both vector averages are green. Candle's opened above the vector averages, and it's also opened above the inner price envelope. So in this case, on the open of this candle, we get an entry. Remember the previous ones we looked at were on the close. This one's on the open. It's the first thing that comes into play. If this candle had opened inside the price envelope, then we'd have had to wait until it closed. But it's opened outside, so there's our entry. And again, same thing. As it moves off, move up. We start moving our stop up, locking in some of that profit until eventually we'll either get stopped out of the trade for that profit, or if we were still in it, here we go. See wait for the arrows to flip the other way. So on this one, look, it flips the other way, opens down here. Vector averages are red, candles open below, and it's open below the inner band, and so we would have been out at that point if we were still in it. But in reality, we would have probably been out prior to that. Let's come back a bit further, see what other ones we've got. Here's another one. There we go. So the arrows are down, flips up. See, now pointing up. The arrow's inside the price envelope, so we're not going to get any trades until we're outside this middle band. Vector averages are green, so we're not there yet. Not yet. And on this candle, arrows up, step back on the open, vector averages are green, candles closed above, but look, on the open, we're not above the middle band. There's no trade on the open, got to wait for it to close. Closes above the inner band, and there we get our entry on the close of this candle. And then off it goes. we lock in our profit as it moves up. And the same process with our active stop. Let's have a look at another example. Pull it back. Here we go. Arrows coming down. Well, this arrow is on the outside, so let's find another one with the arrow on the inside. What we'll do, we'll take whatever ones come up. Actually, let's just look at whatever ones come up. So here we go. Arrows are down. We've hit the arrow, so we know the arrow is going to flip. Flips. Look at this. Step back on the open of the candle. Red and green vector average is not going to be a trade. So nothing there. Just remember the arrow's outside, so all we've got to be is above the inner price envelope there. So on this one, candle opens here. Step back, vector averages are green. Candle's opened above the vector averages, and it's also opened above the inner price envelope. Remember, because the arrow's outside, we're concerned with the inner price envelope. So at this point, we get our entry on the open of that candle, and then there's a little bit of a pullback. There's nothing to tell us to get out of the trade. Doesn't hit our stop. Hasn't generated an active stop because all the arrows are up. So there's no reason to come out. Up it goes. We move our stop up, lock in some of that profit. Let's come back. There's another one here. So arrows are pointing down. We hit the arrow. It flips. It's outside the price envelope in this case. So on the open of the candle, step back, vector averages are green. The candle has closed above the vector averages, and also the candle's opened above the vector averages, and the candle's also opened above the inner price envelope. And so that would be our entry on the open of that candle. That's a bit of a rocky time. Let's just follow this one through. Basically goes pretty much sideways for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 candles. There's a bit of a move up. And then it doesn't move too far. So we've gone from our entry of 518 to 528. So it moves about 10 pips there. So if you're still in the trade, if you haven't moved your stop up, then at this point, arrow flips. On the open of the candle, it's here. Previous vector averages are red. Candle is opened below the vector averages, and it's opened below the inner price envelope. So that would be an active stop if we were still in that trade. And then we would have been out for about 6 pips or so. Look at this one here. The arrows are pointing up. The vector averages even go green here, but we never get to open or close above the inner price envelopes. There's never going to be a trade on that part of it. Same process here, look. Arrow flips up. This one's outside the price envelope. So on the open of the candle, step back. Vector averages green, candle closes above the vector averages, and the candle opens above the vector averages, and also the candle opens above the inner price envelope. So there would be our entry. As it moves up, we start moving our stop up. If we're still in it, then on the close of this candle, we'd have been out of the trade just before a significant fall down. Come back a bit further, see if we've got any others. Back into some normal working times. There we go. Arrows are down. It's not going to be a long trade. Then we flip. Vector averages, one red, one green. They can't be a trade. Wait. Open of this candle. Look to the left. Vector averages red and green. No trade. close of the candle, vector averages change to green, candle closes above the vector averages, and the candle closes also above the band, and so we get an entry on the close of that candle. And then off we go, locking in the profit as we go. Same process over and over, repeating those same rules. You'll find all the rules in PDFs on the website as well. Thank you very much.